Hi guys, welcome back. So there are some controls related to input and output controls. Some of them are preventive, most of them are preventive controls, but we must make sure that try our best to minimize the wrong input given to system, invalid ones. So that's what we call it as the input controls. Input controls means make sure that valid and authorized information is input to the system. At the same time, that's one more thing that make sure that transaction can be processed only one time. So given transaction should not proceed more than once. Later on I have an example to discuss what are the controls we have it. So that's one common thing that we found it here. So when you go to the buy things from the supermarket, you can use the discount vouchers to get the discount. So can you use the same voucher more than once? That means the transaction processed more than once. So I have my personal experience for myself. So some of the supermarket that's possible. So we have talked about those controls. We should try our best to minimize those kind of things happening. All right, next what we are going to do is we look at the data validation and editing procedures. That means still the input controls to make sure that correct information is going to be input to the system, right? Let's think about scenario about salary. So once we go to the office, once we work, at the end of the day, somebody within the finance department is going to create our salary and will go to your bank account, right? So that's a normal procedure. Okay, someone is going to input your salary information to the system. There is the specific system to create salaries. So somebody is going to input your information and then something like your basic salary, your overtime, right? Understand? And then your bonus, everything's input to system, and the system would generate your salary, and then of course will send it to the bank, and then you go to the bank, and then of course you can withdraw the money. That's how it is. Assume that there's a one stop. Assume this assistant professor in the university in Hong Kong, for example. Assistant professors in universities Hong Kong, they get different professors get different salaries, but the maximum amount of money a assistant professor could get, for example, assume that 75,000 Hong Kong dollars. So that means divided by 8 in US dollars. So assume that 75,000 Hong Kong dollars, the monthly maximum salary they got. So that then what the clerk does, or maybe the person who create the salary would create the assistant professor's salary every month and then input system would generate, right? So that is the normal scenario. But then if you look at a scenario where that one of the assistant professors telling the clerk who's inputting your information to the system and tell him or her that, okay, give me 50,000 more than what I'm supposed to get, I'll give you 25,000, we split the money. So these kind of things are very common happening in our workplace. So fraud is very common. So we should have mechanisms, we should have controls to minimize this kind of fraud happens. Can you guys think about what can we do? What kind of controls that we can come up with the system? So what happened that is this for we have something in the system. The system itself say that maximum salary is 75,000, right? As I mentioned to you. So if a clerk is trying to input something more than any amount more than 75,000, systems reject, saying that no, this is not acceptable value. So this person's salary should not exceed 75,000 Hong Kong dollars, right? So the system rejects. So that's simple control, not avoiding or maybe that not allowing to input more than $75,000 to the system. But now, is it possible that a particular professor or particular employee over time, so it's even though the maximum salary is going to be 75,000, say professors teach some MBA courses, EMBA courses, and the employee work overtime, and legitimately, and the correct salary is going to be more than 75,000. So that means a clerk cannot input that money because system is going to reject. So what can we do for that? Think about it. Yes. Now we have to think about this kind of scenarios. So then whatever clerk try to input, the system is going to reject. So what clerk can do now is to communicate to the supervisor and tell supervisor, yes, this professor's salary is more than the amount allowed by the system, but I can't input. Then supervisor look at the information and see, yes, indeed that particular employee, particular assistant professor is teach overtime, teach some extra courses, so indeed they deserve it. So now he's going to do it, we call it supervisory override. So supervisor can override the system and put supervisor's name and username and password, and then let system to accept this money. But now the question that we would ask is it possible that three of them, okay, that means employee, the clerk and supervisor, three of them get together and try to do the fraud? That's very possible. This kind of things happens, right? So if this kind of thing happens, are we going to ask the manager and then manager's manager? We can't keep going, right? So in this case, the solution that is, so its preventive controls may not work anymore. So then now we have to think about a detective control for in this case. Can you guys think about a detective control? So detective control would be a creating audit trail. That means every time supervisor override. Supervisor override means not a normal situation, right? It's normal situation. The employee should get less than 75,000, right? So this is not a normal situation. So whenever abnormal situation happens, whenever supervisor overrides, then there should be an audit trail created. We call it automatic login. That's very, very important here. Okay, right. Now we look at data validation and editing controls in general. So we have basically 6 of them: sequence check, limit check, range check, validity check, completeness check, and duplicate check. So let's look at these validation and edit controls one by one. First, what is sequence check? Can you guys think about it? The sequence check means that when we input the data to the system, input should follow sequentially. Example, input follow sequentially means the invoice number. So invoice number should follow sequentially. So when someone input to the system invoices one by one, if you miss after 101, it should be 102. So then system is going to imagine what happened to 102, right? That's a sequence check, right? Then we have something called limit check. What does limit check means? System not exceed the predetermined amount of time. Can you think about example? So the example could be the example that we have discussed before. That means salary example, 75,000 is the maximum limit. So system, if more than 75,000 salary, system is going to reject, right? Then we have another example, another control rather, we call range check. What is range check means? System would allow only a specific range of information to the system, okay? Can you guys think about example? The range check example is, say for example, if you guys enter a university and then if you are undergraduate students, UG, then you can register probably if it's a 4-year degree program. So we have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 level courses for the 4 years. So you can register by yourself using the course registration system from 1,000 to 4,000 level courses. 5,000 and 6,000 courses are masters and PhD courses. So you can't register by yourself. If you try to register for say 5,000 and 6,000 level courses, system is going to give you a message saying that no, you are not eligible to register to more than 4,000. So is it possible sometimes you won't take PG courses? Yes. But in this case, what you need to do is you need to talk to your coordinator, and then you need to talk to supervisor, and supervisor should approve so that system will accept your postgraduate course inside. So we need to have a supervisory override again. Validity check. System is going to accept predetermined numbers. Say for an example, there's a predetermined system will accept male, female, UG, PG, full-time, part-time. So those are the numbers that system would or inputs the system is going to accept, right? Now we have something called completeness check. So we all experience completeness check. That means when you try to submit the online form, sometimes forms gives an error message saying that you missed some of the mandatory fields, right? So for example, you are supposed to enter your email. It's a mandatory. You try to submit the form, and before form is processed or maybe accept the form, give error message that you must enter the email address. Finally, duplicate check. Remember our example that same discount voucher can be entered to the system more than once. So that's a simple check we call duplication check. So once you enter one discount voucher, system records it. If the same, maybe photocopy of the same voucher is going to be tried to enter again, then system has to be rejected for that one. Okay, and then finally we are talking about output controls. Systems produce outputs. We have a different kind of outputs. We might have soft copy, we might have hard copy. If it is a soft copy, after output, make sure that it's been secured. So what we can do, simply we can do the encryption. If it is a hard copy, then we make sure that lock and key. Sometimes printing those hard copies, if it's a confidential data, very sensitive data to organization, you may not using your printer to print it. You might need to send to your supervisor's printer, so that when you go to collect the document from supervisor's office, he would asking you, why are you printing this document? Are you trying to misuse this document or something like that? So that's kind of control we have it. Okay, so that's very important. At the same time, when we access to certain information, very critical information, even though you could access some of the information from your home using a VPN or remote access, but certain critical information you can't access remotely. You have to come to your own office computer to access those kind of information. So that's something kind of input output controls. Alright, that's all I would like to talk to you guys today for this video. Look forward to see you guys later.